of the Okay. The meeting of the Iowa Board of Regents for July 30th, 2025 will come to order. I will begin by calling the roll. Regent Barker.
Here.
Regent Hensley. I saw her. She's there. Regent Rouse.
Here.
Regent Ryswick.
Here.
Regent Gipple.
Here.
Regent Jaden.
Here.
Regent Kramer.
Here.
Regent Dunkel. Okay. Regent Bates is present. We have a quorum and the meeting can proceed. Before we begin today, I would like to address the report about faculty and staff not adhering to state and federal law regarding DEI. This is unacceptable. Following the law is not optional, nor is working around the law. Any attempt to skirt the law needs to be dealt with swiftly. The board fully supports the Attorney General's review and will take any action needed to correct this very problematic situation. Additionally, one of the primary reasons we are not taking up the DEI CRT policy is that the discussions on how to best implement the ideas that were brought forward are still ongoing. We have heard from many people on both sides of this specific issue. Because of these decisions, it has become clear that we would be better served by something more comprehensive. Our universities must continue to be places where the free flow of ideas and opinions happens, and the opinions happen both inside and outside of the classroom. What we are trying to establish is something broader that addresses underlying concerns. And I think it's something we can all agree on. We do not want our students to be indoctrinated. The board and our universities strongly believe in free expression, and we're being thoughtful and prudent in taking everyone's views into consideration as we come up with a process that works. The most important thing is that we get this policy right. I have asked the board office to set up a special meeting in August to address this policy. I look forward to continuing these discussions and seeing the proposal brought before the board for consideration. Nancy, I see you're here. I'll mark you here. Are there items board members would like to remove from the consent agenda for a separate vote? A motion and a second are required to approve and receive items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll move, Chris.
Motion by Chris Hensley, second by?
Second.
Regent Jaden. Any discussion? I'll take a roll call vote. Regent Dunkel. Yes, I see her head shaking. Regent Barker.
Yes.
Regent Hensley.
Yes.
Regent Rouse.
Yes.
Regent Ryswick.
Yes.
Regent Gipple.
Yes.
Regent Jaden.
Yes.
Regent Kramer.
Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes. The motion is approved. I'd now like to recognize Kristen Bauer-Davis from the board office, who will make comments about the first set of proposed policy manual changes.
All right, good morning. We have 3 proposed policy manual revisions related to human resources. Proposed revisions are being presented today as a second and final reading. First revision pertains to the HR report. After reviewing the HR report, we determined that it is no longer serving its intended purpose. By the time the report is compiled, reviewed, and on the board docket, much of the information is already outdated. As a result, it doesn't provide a current or actionable view of HR activity. Moving forward, if you need specific HR data, it can be provided in real time and tailored to a specific question, which ensures that the information received is timely and relevant. The HR report is referenced once in our board policy manual, so this revision simply removes that reference. Our next 2 proposed revisions relate to the professional and scientific pay plans and insurance benefits. The proposed revisions clarify the approval process by establishing defined thresholds for the executive director's approval versus board approval. P&S pay plans include only the pay grade structures and matrices, not salary policy. For P&S pay plans, we are proposing that adjustments of 3% or less be approved by the executive director, and any proposed increases exceeding that 3% be brought to the board for approval. For the insurance benefits, we are proposing using a benchmark threshold based on the 3-year weighted average of medical trend indexes. Changes within that benchmark would be approved by the executive director. Any changes exceeding that benchmark would require the board's approval. These changes are designed to streamline routine adjustments while still ensuring that the board retains appropriate oversight for more significant adjustments in compensation and benefits. Do you have any questions? Let me know.
Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none, a motion and second are required to approve the policy manual changes for chapter 2.1 as proposed in the docket memo. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Regent Jaden moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Regent Hensley? Second by Regent Hensley. Roll call. Regent Dunkel.
Yes.
Regent Barker.
Yes.
Regent Hensley.
Yes.
Regent Rouse.
Yes.
Regent Ryswick.
Yes.
Regent Gipple.
Yes.
Regent Jaden.
Yes.
Regent Kramer.
Yes. Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes, the motion is approved. I would now like to recognize Amy Clays from the board office, who will make comments about the second set of proposed policy manual changes.
Thank you, President Bates. The board office proposes amending policy manual section 3.2 governing admissions to include new residency requirements for the University of Iowa College of Medicine and College of Dentistry. These revisions are proposed to implement House File 516, which became effective July 1. The revisions are therefore presented as a first and final reading. I would be happy to answer any question.
Are there any questions for Amy? Hearing none, a motion and a second are required to approve the policy manual changes for chapter 3.2 as proposed in the docket memo. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. This is Nancy Dunkel.
Motion by Regent Dunkel. Is there a second?
Second. Regent Ryswick.
Thank you. Second by Regent Ryswick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Regent Dunkel.
Yes.
Regent Barker.
Yes.
Regent Hensley.
Yes.
Regent Rouse.
Yes.
Regent Ryswick.
Yes.
Regent Gipple.
Yes.
Regent Jaden.
Yes.
Regent Kramer.
Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes. The motion is approved. Now I'd like to recognize John Nash from the board office, who will make comments about the proposed facility analysis. John?
Thank you, President Bates and members of the board. The board office requests that the board direct our senior vice presidents for finance and operations to coordinate a facility analysis at each of our 3 presidential residences to identify any recommended renovation projects. That information would be submitted in a report to the board no later than this November board meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
I have a comment, Sherry.
Sure. Regent Jaden? Yeah.
I think given the Iowa State University presidential search process, it would be exceptionally beneficial if the Iowa State report could be accelerated to our September meeting, even if it's in a preliminary form to assist with our search process.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay. We can take that under consideration. Absolutely. So a motion and a second are required to approve the facility analysis.
Sherry, hang on. Chris has a.
Oh, I'm sorry. Regent Hensley?
I just want to make sure that that's actually part of the motion, that it would come in September. Is that
Amy,
correct?
yeah. Amy, can I just insert that in this? I want to make sure I'm doing it correctly.
You can. There's no motion currently on the table, so there's no need to entertain an amendment. You can just clarify that as part of your reading of the motion. So if you wanted to start again and reread, that would be appropriate.
Okay, thank you. A motion and a second are required to approve the facility analysis for the presidential residence as outlined in the docket memo, with the Iowa State University residency being approved by September. Is there a motion?
So moved. This is Regent Rouse.
A motion by Regent Rouse. Is there a second?
Second. Regent Ryswick.
Second by Regent Ryswick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Regent will take a vote. Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Hensley,
Yes.
Regent Rouse,
Yes.
Regent Ryswick,
Yes.
Regent Gipple,
Yes.
Regent Jaden,
Yes.
Regent Kramer.
Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes. The motion is approved. I'd like to recognize David Kep from the University of Iowa, who will make comments about the proposed University of Iowa property purchase.
Thank you, Regent Bates. The University of Iowa Healthcare is seeking approval to purchase the 38,000 square foot medical office building and land at 411 Southeast 10th Street, in Cedar Rapids for the purchase price of $4,250,000. UI Healthcare started leasing this building over a decade ago and now occupies approximately just a little bit over 60% of the building. UI Healthcare has also invested a significant amount of capital in the building, with now having several service lines being offered in the facility, including pediatrics, dermatology, OBGYN, sports medicine, and an urgent care. There's available space for additional services to be provided if we were to own the building, and there's more than sufficient parking at the site. The building owner is offering to sell the building to UI Healthcare before listing it for sale on the open market, and we're looking to take advantage of that opportunity. The building is located near other healthcare providers who have expressed an interest in acquiring the building. The purchase price is based on the average of 2 appraisals recently commissioned, one by the seller, one by the university. And the financial analysis shows a payback of the purchase price versus ongoing lease payments in just over 11 years. The purchase secures our control and use of the building into the future. This is the primary clinic location for UI Healthcare in the Cedar Rapids area. We only have one other small leased clinic in the community. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for David? Comments? Okay, very good.
I have a question.
Yes, go
Sorry.
ahead.
So the remaining 40%, is there any additional improvements that need to be made to modify that for UI hospital use that we anticipate in the future, or since we've been using it for 10 years, it's mostly there?
Yeah, those other units are set up as medical clinics now. Depending on the service line that went in there, there would probably need to be modifications to fit the particular needs of that service, but you're not changing the overall use of the space. They're medical offices now, and they clinic facilities, and they would remain as clinic facilities. It would be more the equipment or the fit and finishes to fit.
Okay, so no significant upgrades to make it hospital ready, for lack of a term. Yep. Okay.
Correct.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Ryswick. Is there any other questions or comments? Right. Hearing none, a motion and a second are required to approve the proposed property purchase by the University of Iowa as outlined in the docket memo. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. Nancy.
Motion by Regent Dunkel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Regent Jaden. Is there any further discussion? We'll take a vote. Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Hensley,
Yes.
Regent Rouse,
Yes.
Regent Ryswick,
Yes.
Regent Gipple,
Yes.
Regent Jaden,
Yes.
Regent Kramer,
Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes. The motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to recognize Michael Hager from the University of Northern Iowa, who will make comments.
Good morning. University of Northern Iowa is requesting permission to move forward with a lease for a cell tower. We are in our last term of a multi-year term lease. The lease is pretty common. It's not unusual to have cell tower leases be 20, 25, 30 years. This is a 25-year and 5-year terms. The rate is very competitive with what the market is. It has an escalator every year of 3%. Pretty typical cell tower lease, and we're just asking to continue it on. I'd be
Okay,
glad to answer any questions.
any questions for Michael? Okay,
Michael, sorry, Sherry again.
no,
Couldn't get
speak up
myself
because
unmuted.
I can't see, so.
Michael, is the maintenance of the cell tower, is that Verizon that is responsible for that, or what is the university responsible for, if anything? For maintenance?
We're responsible for nothing.
Okay, that's what I didn't want to assume, but wanted to make sure.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Ryswick. Any other questions or comments? I look at everybody. All right. A motion and a second are required to approve the proposed lease as outlined in the docket memo. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
I think that is that Regent Hensley made a motion.
Yes.
Second,
I'll second it. This is Nancy Dunkel.
thank you, Nancy. Second by Regent Dunkel. Any further discussion? We'll take a vote. Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Hensley,
Yes.
Regent Rouse,
Yes.
Regent Weiswick,
Yes.
Regent Gipple,
Yes.
Regent Jaden,
Yes.
Regent Kramer,
Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes. The motion is approved. Now I'd like to recognize President Mark Nook from the University of Northern Iowa, who will make comments about the proposed 2025-26 tuition and fee rates at UNI for students from contiguous states.
President Bates and members of the board, thank you for considering the University of Northern Iowa's request to set tuition for new undergraduate students entering the university this year who are residents from states bordering Iowa at the tuition rate for Iowa resident students. Thank you as well for the opportunity to provide some background for this request. It's important to emphasize from the beginning that the purpose of this initiative is to help address what Governor Reynolds identified as Iowa's most pressing economic challenge: worker shortages coupled with slow population growth. In 2018-2019, the university created a purpose statement that describes the purpose of our institution since its founding 149 years ago. The purpose of the University of Northern Iowa is to enrich lives, communities, and the world through our students, faculty, staff, and alumni. Along with this purpose statement were 3 statements that articulate how we achieve this purpose. One of those statements reads, "By investing in people, we innovate ethical solutions to the problems of our time." The university also recognizes that as a public institution of the state of Iowa, our first responsibility is to the people, communities, businesses, organizations, schools, and other entities of our state. This request originated from our purpose and from our commitment to the state of Iowa. It is an ethical solution to begin to address, in part, the most significant economic problem facing our state. In 2017, when I returned to Iowa, there were 60,000 job openings in our state, but only 40,000 unemployed people. A few years later, Governor Reynolds called the lack of workers available to take the jobs that our economy is creating the single largest economic challenge facing our state. While the numbers have changed somewhat since 2017, we are still plagued by a worker shortage and population shortage. During a presentation at UNI this past April, the director of Iowa Economic Development Authority, Debbie Durham, again called this the single largest economic challenge facing our state. We recognize that the University of Northern Iowa is uniquely positioned to help address this challenge for 2 reasons. First, the university has capacity to significantly grow its enrollment. And second, between 40% and 50% of non-resident students who graduate from UNI take jobs in the state of Iowa. The data from neighboring states that have tuition reciprocity indicate that UNI will see a 7-fold increase in enrollment and graduates from the 6 neighboring states. Once this initiative is fully implemented, UNI should increase the number of workers placed into Iowa workforce annually by a little over 300. Achieving these results requires that UNI can publicize the tuition rate so that it will be found in internet searches and AI-generated responses to college costs as guidance counselors, prospective students, and their parents begin their journey of applying to and enrolling at a university. The first few years of this initiative will cost the university significantly. This fall, we do not expect to see a significant increase in enrollment due to this initiative. However, there will be approximately 160 new entering students from 6 states who would have paid non-resident tuition who will now pay a substantially lower rate. This cost will continue to grow as more students are added each year, but that increasing cost will be offset to a degree by the tuition generated by the additional students who would not have come to UNI without the lower tuition rate. The result is that the university needs approximately $1.5 million per year for the next few years to close this financial gap. After the initial startup period, enrollment should grow to the point that this new revenue will cover financial gap and provide the resources necessary to cover the additional costs. We greatly appreciate the efforts of Governor Reynolds, Speaker Grassley, Senate Majority Leader Whitver, and the House and Senate Appropriations Committee for their work over the last year toward a viable mechanism to support this initiative, focused on helping address our state's most significant economic problem. And we look forward to continuing that work this year. Thank you again for allowing me to provide our reasons for this request and for your consideration of this request. Thank you.
Thank you, President Nook. Are there any questions, comments?
I don't have a question, Sherry, but I have a comment. Mark, that was really helpful. Thank you. I think going forward, it'll be important as part of your budget submission to be updating the board on how you're tracking versus that 160, the baseline from this year versus what you projected, just so we know where it's playing through. So I'd ask you to call that out somewhere in your materials as we get into this next year and going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Jaden. Any other comments? Okay. A motion and a second are required to approve the tuition and fee rates for the 2025-26 as outlined in the docket memo and waive Board of Regents Policy Manual Section 1.6.F.8.F. Is there a motion?
Regent Hensley will move.
Thank you. Motion by Regent Hensley. Is there a second?
I'll move. Regent Gipple.
Thank you. Second by Regent Gipple. Any further discussion before we take a vote? Regent Dunkel.
Yes.
Regent Barker.
Yes.
Regent Hensley.
Yes.
Regent Rouse.
Yes.
Regent Weiswick.
Yes.
Regent Gipple.
Yes.
Regent Jaden. Okay. Regent Kramer.
Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes. The motion is approved. Now I'd like to recognize Mark Braun, Board of Regents Executive Director, who will make comments concerning the Center for Intellectual Freedom.
Thank you, President Bates. Before you today is the appointment of Professor DeCastro as the interim executive director of the Center for Intellectual Freedom for a term to commence immediately and conclude upon the appointment of a permanent director. The Center for Intellectual Freedom was created in House File 437. Be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments?
Comment, Regent Hensley.
Regent Hensley?
Thank you. I'm just really pleased that we're able to take action on this today. I appreciate that very much. And I know that there were some other regions that had the opportunity to meet Professor DeCastro. I know David Barker, Kurt, Robert Kramer have all had an opportunity to meet, and he was with Mark Braun yesterday. He had a full day. He is really excited. We had a great meeting with the governor yesterday, which I'm very pleased with, and he's looking forward to it. And I believe he also, at the end of the day, had the opportunity to visit with the provost and dean at Iowa State University to start exploring some potential collaboration. So I think that's really significant. Right now, we're taking the action is to hire him on an interim basis. However, we plan to bring the individuals forward in the September meeting that would be on the board. And we are continuing to work closely with the governor on outreaching to faculty members, and we'll continue that and hopefully have that all completed by the time we bring it back to the board. So I'd be happy to make the motion to approve.
Just a quick comment. I'm also have a lot of confidence in Professor DeCastro. He's a very accomplished economist, and I'm really excited to see what he can do with the center.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Regent Barker and Regent Hensley. A motion and a second are required to appoint the interim director for the Center for Intellectual Freedom at the University of Iowa. Is there a motion?
Move.
And was that you, Regent Hensley?
Yes, it was.
Second.
Okay. And David Barker, or Regent Barker will second. Thank you. Is there any other further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. Regent Dunkel?
Yes.
Regent Barker?
Yes.
Regent Hensley?
Yes.
Regent Rouse?
Yes.
Regent Reiswick?
Yes.
Regent Gipple?
Yes.
Regent Jaden?
Yes.
Regent Kramer?
Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes. The motion is approved. Thank you,
President
Mark.
Bates,
Yes.
would you mind if I make a comment just before we get into the budget?
Go right ahead, Regent Barker.
Thank you. So we're going into the budget, then we'll adjourn. Just before that, I just wanted to make another comment on President Bates' statement when we opened. That clip on Fox News yesterday, I think, demonstrates that we have a continuing DEI problem. Last month, I reviewed a letter from the Board of Regents to Attorney General Brenna Bird. The letter stated, these changes bring all the universities into compliance with Iowa Code Chapter 261J prior to the July 1st, 2025 effective date. I objected to President Bates about this statement before the letter went out, saying that we should acknowledge that there will continue to be violations and pledge to address them when we discover them. No change was made to the letter. In late 2023, I chaired the DEI Review Committee that recommended the elimination of DEI programs. I was asked at that meeting by Regent Kramer how the recommendation would be implemented and enforced. I began to answer that the DEI committee would continue to monitor compliance, but I was interrupted by President Richards, who said that the committee would be disbanded and compliance would be largely left to the universities with questions answered by board staff. I understand President Richards' concern about micromanagement by the board, and in most cases, the board should leave management to the universities. But in some cases, the board needs to take more direct action. Having worked with university administrations on DEI for several months, I did not have confidence that all of them would faithfully execute our directives. When President Richards stepped down, I repeatedly asked President Bates to allow me to be involved in the compliance process, but she declined. This clip and other reports that we receive were predictable and show that we as a board still have work to do. Thank you.
Are there any other comments at this point? All right. Thank you for your opinion, David Barker. Okay. I'd now like to recognize Brad Berg from the board office, who will make comments, and then Brad will introduce the staff from the universities to make remarks.
Thank you, President Bates. Before the board today are the FY26 university operating and restricted fund budgets, as well as the budgets for the board office and Lakeside Lab. Separate budgets for athletics and the residence systems for each university are also contained in the docket. The budgets reflect flat state support and general university appropriations as approved last session, and support the general education fund. These support the general education fund at each university, and the budgets also include incremental funding for certain existing and new special purpose units. For clarification, these are the budgets for the fiscal year that began July 1, 2025 and ends June 30, 2026, and are the culmination of all legislative and board actions that have already occurred for this fiscal year, and do not include any action or commitment related to the legislative budget request for fiscal year 2027 that will be considered during the 2026 legislative session. The general university budgets, which sometimes are referred to as the general education funds, support the higher education component at each university and include the general university appropriations as approved by the legislature and signed by the governor. They also include the tuition revenue, which is impacted by rates approved by the board in June, coupled with student retention and strong incoming freshman classes, resulting in higher anticipated enrollments. each special purpose unit with an operating appropriation approved by the legislature for each university, as well as the hospital units at the University of Iowa, each have a separate budget that are also included in the docket. Primary components of the restricted fund budgets include capital appropriations, plant funds for capital improvements, sponsored research from federal and non-federal sources, auxiliary units, mainly the primary ones being athletics and residence systems, which have a separate budget included in the docket as well. Project budgets for individual capital projects will continue to come to the board throughout the fiscal year in accord with board policy. The university presidents are present today to comment on their respective budgets, and we will first begin with President Nook at the University of Northern Iowa. President Nook.
Thank you, Brad. I don't know who's running the slides. Is the present? There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about the university's budget. You have the budget materials in front of you, and so today what I'd like to do is take a little bit of time to talk about what we have done with the investments we made last year, how we invested last year's money, so that you can see how we work with our budgets to return on that investment that was made during the past year. FY25 has really been a remarkable year. I've been on several different campuses in 4 different states, and I've never seen a regional comprehensive institution that has had the kind of year that the University of Northern Iowa has had this year. It's really a kudos to the faculty and staff on this campus. Few of the highlights you can see here, the launching of new baccalaureate degrees, all of these aimed at high workforce needs, from the Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Mechanical Engineering Technology, and then the Material Science Engineering. This is our first true engineering degree. That is, all of our degrees in the past have been in the engineering field. We're engineering technology. We also started a hybrid Bachelor of Arts degree in accounting in the Des Moines area at the request of accounting firms in Greater Des Moines. It's been a big lift for our accounting program. Master of Arts as well, to allow students who are have partially completed, have some credits towards a master's degree, be able to return to pick that degree up. We've seen reorganizations and the creation of the School of Health and Human Sciences that folded in the nursing program, reorganized our College of Ed, as well as reorganization in applied engineering and technical management, separating into 2 different departments. We've also seen these significant transformations in teacher education and obtained approval for the UNI Center for Civic Education. We've just hired the founding director, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce her to you at the September meeting, which will be here on our campus. Next slide, please. We also saw a transformation in student life and support services to align with new state laws, completely reworking really almost all of our student life division. We also had several significant facilities upgrades, and this year we purchased a set of apartments known as the Quarters, renamed them Trailside to increase our on-campus apartment style living. Completed the expansion of the applied engineering building, and you can see completion of things at the nursing facilities, Gallagher Blue Dorn, the Unidome, and we started construction of the Campanile Plaza project. We also converted to UNI Works as our human resources and business operations software system. This was a tremendous lift for the institution, and really thank you to all of the people that were involved in making that transition. Last 2 points are, we received an upgrade this year from Standard & Poor's bond rating from A to A+. Kudos to Michael Hager and the people in facilities and operations. And finally, we grew our enrollment by 2.7% this past year. Next slide, please. Talk just a little bit about each of these academic programs. As many of you were here as we cut the ribbon on the nursing program and officially opened that program. We had 26 students in the first cohort in the fall, another 25 in the spring. We are on track to have a little over 60 in the cohort for this fall and continue to grow our nursing program, first graduates graduating then at the end of next year. Our new engineering program, we had the applied engineering building, of course, completed. This summer, we split the applied engineering and technological management program into applied engineering and construction management, two separate departments, so that both can grow and change their focus just a little bit and meet the increasing workforce demands in each of those areas. I mentioned the hybrid accounting program in Des Moines. This really has been a boon to the area. We've seen significant growth in the student population there. Really kudos to Joe Ugrin and the accounting department for being innovative and reaching out and setting this up and working with the firms, the accounting firms in Des Moines to make this really possible and to help it grow. Accounting also received supplemental accreditation this year through AACSB. There are only 200 programs in the entire world that have accounting supplemental accreditation through AACSB, and UNI was the first to receive that through the accelerated accreditation process. As a point of pride for us, UNI ranks first in the nation for CPA pass rate success according to Accounting Today. We have also completely redone our new teacher education curriculum and reorganized the College of Education. The focus is on the reorganization of the college has been on from the student's point of view as opposed to from the faculty or the administration's point of view. What's going to make it easiest for our students to navigate not only the curriculum, but the offices of our College of Education as well. So a completely revision of not only the curriculum, but also the organizational structure of the college. Next slide, please. We also started the Center for Civic Education this spring. We got approval from the board to start that. Our new director, as I mentioned, just started this month. During this year, we have already had a couple of programs that we have been able to launch, even though officially it didn't begin or until this July. We hosted a citizenship ceremony this spring on our campus. You can see some images of that. We also welcomed the Discussion Project to campus. This is a program that was designed at the University of Wisconsin College of Education. And as they say in their materials, the program's designed to strengthen campus-wide capacity to create welcoming, engaging, and academically rigorous classroom environments in which students experience productive classroom discussions on important issues and important topics. We look forward to continuing to grow that center this year as the funding has just begun July 1. And we look forward to Allison Rank's work as the director. Next slide, please. In auxiliary services, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we purchased the quarters apartment complex, which was setting adjacent to university property, is now part of university property. It is an apartment complex with, as you can see, pools and recreation facilities. It's exactly the kind of properties that our students are looking for as they come to the university. Helps us meet a growing need on our campus. And we're excited to have these students staying on university properties in our facilities. We have ample data that shows that the longer that students stay engaged and live on our campus, the more likely they are to graduate and to graduate in shorter periods of time. So looking forward to this being a part of our residential life system as well. Next slide, please. Our facility updates, many of you were here as we cut the ribbon on the applied engineering building and launched that little over $40 million expansion and renovation project, allowing us to really start our first engineering program in material science engineering and to grow our engineering technology programs, as well as to significantly grow our construction management program. It'll help not only with the recruitment of students, but especially with the recruitment of faculty, as we've changed the available resources for them to educate students and to do their work. We also had a privately funded renovation and expansion of the Gallagher Blue Door Performing Arts Center, adding on the Pauline Barrett Marquee Lounge. This facility is a gathering spot for both before and after events, but it's also a space that we will use on our campus for campus events, not necessarily associated with something happening in the performance hall itself. We've already hosted meetings with John Deere as we talked with them about our partnership. Just yesterday, our Deans and Academic Affairs Unit met in there for their summer retreat. We're in the process of renovating the Unidome. It's 49 years old as we speak right now, and we're renovating the seating, in particular in the suites area inside the dome. The seating is coming along great. It looks fantastic in there. The suites are moving forward. We should have most of the work done by the first game this fall. There'll be some of the graphics will still need to go up a little bit after that, but you'll continue to see expansion of that and growing purple in that facility. We've begun our renovation of the Campanile Plaza. This is mostly moving a lot of dirt and putting in some concrete in special places, and then putting in the vegetation and in particular sustainable vegetation around this complex. Running a little bit behind, Iowa has been blessed with ample rains this year, which has made it great for corn and soybeans, as well as the tomatoes and cucumbers in my garden, but it's meant really been difficult for the people as we've had to move dirt and try to pour concrete. So running a little bit behind, but it will be finished up this fall as well. Next slide, please. We often think about in our budgets the impact of the general fund and some of the things we do through auxiliaries and the funds to that come to us to renovate facilities. But it's also important to keep in mind what the private dollars that flow into our university. We're in the middle of a campaign, the Our Tomorrow campaign. As of the 1st of July, we've raised $300 million. To put that number into perspective, that's equal to the amount of money that was raised in the past combined campaigns. We have another year to go. You can see some of the milestones there. One of them that we're particularly proud of is that the $92 million for scholarship support to continue to support our students, and the $99 million in academic program support to help us continue to support our marquee programs and grow new marquee programs, and to be able to move the university forward with an innovation fund. The other programs are moving along. Almost 32,000 unique donors. Incredible when you consider that we have an alumni base of about just under 180,000 alums. So a significant portion of our alumni base is part of this campaign. Next slide, please. With that, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about our budgets, how we invest the resources that we have and the returns that you can see on those sorts of investments. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Are there any questions for President Nook? Can't see everybody. Okay, hearing. Yes, go ahead.
A question for you on process. Will we be asked to vote on each budget individually, or will there be one vote?
I believe it's one vote listed in my script here.
Is that one? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, President Nook. Brad, if you'd like to continue.
Sure. President Wintersteen.
You're still on mute.
Thank you, Sherry. It's been a long time since we've been doing these virtual meetings, but always hard to get off mute. So
I agree.
Pleasure to be here to talk about our budget priorities for the coming year. And our priorities are always connected to our strategic plan And we think about our goal to be the most student-centric leading research university that prepares students for high-demand careers and creates economic opportunities to strengthen our state. So I want to begin by highlighting one of our initiatives related to workforce. So if we could go on to our first slide here. So 2 years ago, we launched our STEM Workforce Initiative supported by an annual $2.8 million state appropriation. And these funds are providing critical support to grow our STEM programs, which serve more than 60% of our students at Iowa State. And they're helping create innovative new programs. And we call these degrees of the future that respond to workforce needs. And this fall, we're launching 3 new degree programs. So if we could go to the next slide. So first, a bachelor's degree in digital and precision agriculture, the first of its kind in Iowa. And students will learn to apply technology and data analysis to crop and soil management. And they'll have hands-on experience with tools like drones and sensors and mapping software. And it really demonstrates what we do every day at Iowa State, and that's being a leader in agricultural innovation. And the next slide highlights another degree program, which is a bachelor's degree in integrated health sciences. And this degree will help us address the shortage in workers in healthcare, specifically areas related to clinical research, medical or healthcare services management, data analysis, and public healthcare. So next, our third area would be in a master's degree in fintech, which was designed to address the rapid rise of technology's impact on financial service industry. With the growing use of products like mobile payments, digital wallets, and other automated financial tools, students will gain a blend of technical training and market knowledge of really what's become a data-driven economy. So those are 3 new degree programs that we'll be offering going forward that have been approved by the Board of Regents. Going on to the next slide. We're so pleased that with the success of our biomedical engineering bachelor's degree. We introduced this program 2 years ago, and demand has really exceeded our expectations. During the first year, the fall of 2023, we had 53 students, more than twice our projections. And this fall, we expect enrollment to triple. To date, 155 students are registered for this major. And this degree helps fill the workforce needs for Iowa's biomanufacturing firms. And it also offers students another pathway to medical school. Going on to the next slide. We were so excited to cut the ribbon on the Turkelson Industrial Engineering Building. What a wonderful new facility. When we have the first day of classes on August 25th, students will walk into this building that was supported by donors. The Turkelsons made their extraordinary gift of $42 million. It houses our Department of Industrial and Manufacturing Systems Engineering. It includes advanced manufacturing laboratory. It allows students to have hands-on experiences with automation and data collection technology, a design lab for industry-sponsored capstone projects, and a high bay and low bay ergonomics laboratories for research and instruction on human interaction with systems, machines, and environments. So we're so excited about this new building on Iowa State's campus. Going on to the next slide. As a result of the Turkelson building, we're able to free up critical space in the Black Engineering Building shown here, and we appreciate the board's approval to renovate about 12,000 square feet for our Department of Mechanical Engineering, and this too will be done with private support. The project will add experimental and computational research labs, offices, and support spaces for our largest department on campus. Nearly 2,200 students are enrolled in our mechanical engineering program. Going on to the next slide, our primary goal is to prepare students for success in the workforce. While we focused on our STEM degrees, we have strong placement rates across every program in Iowa State, and many of our graduates stay in Iowa. We often share percentages when we're talking about post-graduation placement, but here we include the actual numbers of graduates who stay in Iowa. And these are figures from the 2023-24 graduating class, the most recent comprehensive data available. So 2,270 resident students stayed in Iowa. That's 2/3 of Iowa resident graduates who reported staying here after earning their degree. And many of our out-of-state students are getting jobs in Iowa after graduation, or they're staying here to continue their education. And then so that's 382 students, and 161 international students stayed in Iowa after getting their degrees. So they're contributing to Iowa's workforce needs. So we're educating and we're retaining the talent that powers our state's economy. So next slide. So moving on to our direct appropriations, we received an increase in state funding in 3 areas that support enhancing Iowa's rural economy. First, we appreciate the $1 million increase to support Iowa State's agricultural experiment station. So this is really the only agricultural research program in the state, and it helps maintain Iowa's global leadership in agricultural productivity, sustainability, and efficiency. And we're able to leverage this funding to secure an additional $8.5 million in USDA capacity funding and another typically $50 million in grants and contracts from federal agencies, corporations, and industry partners. And this allows Iowa State to expand our expertise and capacity in agricultural economics and policy and strengthen our related teaching, research, and outreach programs. So this new appropriation will be focused in our Department of Economics at Iowa State University. Next slide. Next, we're grateful for the additional support for the Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. This includes a nearly $300,000 increase to the lab's operations appropriation, as well as $250,000 in one-time funds to support new equipment for phase 2 that's underway. Iowa State's VDL is the largest food animal focused VDL in the country. Phase 1 of the new facility opened in March of 2024, and last year the lab processed more than 127,000 cases and conducted over 1.7 million tests. Additional state support will help cover the cost of maintaining the operational standards of the biosafety level 2 facility. And so we're looking forward to having phase 2 completed next year. Going on to the next slide. Finally, we received $100,000 in one-time funds for the Iowa Livestock Health Advisory Council to support research in livestock disease mitigation. And it's vital to protect Iowa's $32.6 million, let me say that correctly, $32.6 billion livestock production industry. And for every dollar invested by ILAC, ISU can leverage $10 in external funding. So there's a lot of impactful work occurring at Iowa State University, and we're very appreciative of the additional funds allocated by the Iowa State Legislature in this past legislative session. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions related to my presentation today or other questions that you might have.
Thank you, President Wintersteen. Are there any questions or comments? I can't see. I gotta see it. Okay. All right. Hearing none, I'll turn it back over to Brad.
President Wilson.
Good morning, everyone. Almost good afternoon. Before I begin my comments about the budget, I want to make a few comments about the issue that both you, President Bates, and Regent Barker mentioned earlier. As you're aware, a recent report by Fox News has raised concerns regarding compliance with university policies and applicable laws. I want to assure you that the University of Iowa takes these allegations very seriously. Faith in our institution depends on our unwavering commitment to upholding state and federal laws, as well as the policies set forth by this board. The expectations we have for our faculty and our staff are clear and uncompromising. We adhere to the highest standards of conduct, accountability, and transparency. In response to the report, we have already launched an immediate and comprehensive investigation. In addition, we've reached out to the board office and to the Attorney General's office to coordinate our efforts in the investigation of this matter. This review is being conducted in accordance with our established procedures to ensure fairness, accuracy, and impartiality. If at any point we find that policies or laws have been violated, we will take the necessary corrective actions without hesitation. I also want to emphasize that while personnel matters must remain confidential, our approach to this situation, like all others, will be guided by our values of integrity, compliance, and responsibility to the public we serve. We will keep the board informed as the investigation progresses, and we are committed to taking any steps required to reinforce the trust that's placed in this university. All right, I'm going to turn my attention to the budget report now. Happy to answer questions at the end. The University of Iowa continues to focus on delivering a values-based budget that directs resources to two of our key priorities in the strategic plan: enhancing student success, driving innovation, research, and scholarship. So those are the two of our big priorities. The UI's General Education Fund is projected to grow this year, and it's growing because of two primary factors. One, we are attracting more and more students, which I'll talk about in a minute. We're expecting this fall another historically large class of new students. And we're tightly focused on increased retention and graduation rates. Every student we retain is an important factor in our commitment to our plan. We're doing the right thing on moral grounds, and retention has a budgetary impact, as you know. At Iowa, we're proud that we're keeping doors open for all college-ready students, and we're building programs to support the success of those students. We're also focused on delivering outcomes efficiently. We're always asking, can we reduce duplication? Are our resources aligned with what drives outcomes for our students, faculty, and staff? You'll see in our budget request for next year that we continue to have a strong support for rural health and workforce development. We are committed to ensuring that the programs we design and that we support serve Iowa communities while addressing the workforce needs that my colleagues have already mentioned. All right, let's go on to the first slide. Before I get into the budget, I have to just make a comment about tracers. I'm hoping many of you were able to at least read about tracers, if not actually watch the launch. It was launched on July 23rd. Tracers stands for Tandem Reconnection and Cusp Electrodynamics Reconnaissance Satellites. So that's a fancy way of saying tracers. And this project was a result of a $115 million grant from NASA, which is the single largest research grant in our history. The grant and the project will help us answer long-standing questions about space weather, something that we probably don't think about very much, but we should, particularly how the sun transfers energy, mass, and momentum to Earth space. 2 satellites have been launched, and they will work in tandem to provide new insights into space weather and solar flares, both of which can affect GPS systems and cell phone communication systems in our country. So stay tuned. Those satellites are up there, and we have many scientists now who will be tracking the data that they collect. Next slide. As you know, we are particularly focused on efficiency efforts, and we have been for a while, but I want to emphasize that over time, we've doubled our spending on academics, as this graph illustrates, in the last 2 decades, and we've cut costs by 20% in those same 20 years. As we look forward to the FY26 and future budgets, we'll continue to focus on spending related to our strategic plan and on continuing to be as efficient as possible. We're going to look at deployment of technologies such as AI. We're going to continue to right-size our physical plant in accordance with our mission. Next slide. I've spent a fair amount of time with the board talking about our exciting rise in first-year retention, and we just can't be quiet enough about this because it's such an important aspect of what we do. But before I talk about that in particular, I just want to remind the board that according to the American Council of Trustees and Alumni, the University of Iowa spends only 12 cents of every dollar on administration. And that means we're spending 88 cents of every dollar on instruction. We're not only efficient, but we're laser focused, as you can see from this graph, on student success. So when we started our 5-year strategic plan, we were at 88% first-year retention rate. We set a goal of 90% in 5 years, and believe it or not, we reached it at the end of the 3rd year. That wasn't an accident. It comes from constant devotion to programs that we know support first-year students and get them over that hurdle between the 1st and 2nd year, such as our First Gen Hawks program. Because of our increase in retention in only 3 years, we've reset our 5-year goal to be 91%. So stay tuned. We're on the move. We're going to keep scaling up and continue to support our first-year students and increasingly our second-year students as well. Next slide. The P3 funding that we have from our incredible partnership with NG is something that we constantly talk about because it has made it possible for us to continue to devote time and attention to attracting and retaining the best faculty in the country and indeed in the world. We've used this funding over the last 5 years to recruit and retain 100 faculty. And that's just amazing. Without it, we wouldn't be able to do this. So it's our high program that's run out of our provost's office. Provost works closely with deans. 10 out of our 11 colleges have been involved in this program. We will continue to work very highly integrated way around retention and recruitment of faculty over the next few years as well. So this is another example of the budget impact of the P3. Okay, next slide. Student debt is something we think about all the time. We believe and we know there are solid data showing that college is an investment in the future of individual students, and it also benefits the communities in which they live and work. We recognize, though, that a 4-year degree costs money, and so we're focused on reducing the burden on students and their parents. Over 50% of Iowan undergraduates graduate with 0 debt. We're continuing to try to push that percentage upward, and we'll be working with partners across the campus and with our donors and friends as well. But the good news is 52%, and the average debt of those who do graduate with some debt is less than the state and national averages. I'd like to get that down below $28,841, and I think we're on the path to doing that. Our donors have stepped up quite a bit. They respond eagerly to our efforts to support students, and you can see that philanthropic support in FY24 alone was $34 million just towards student scholarships. And student scholarships is a big component of our current comprehensive campaign. Next slide. Last but certainly not least, as we think about the next year's budget request and are working with the state, we're grateful for all the support we've received to enhance our rural health care efforts. Just to give you a snapshot, since 2023, We've used the funding to increase the number of students that are pursuing healthcare degrees across our campus by 251, and we'll continue that. You can see we've grown our nursing, we've grown our social work programs, and a variety of other healthcare related degree programs. And we've also used the money to increase training slots for current Iowan healthcare workers. We've increased that just in recent years by 146. So we're out and about across the state training nurses, mental health counselors, and first responders so that they can be even more effective in making sure that Iowans are receiving the health care they deserve and they need. So we'll continue to do that in this year's request. Our goal is to increase the number of students who are interested in healthcare occupations and increase our outreach across the state to benefit the citizens of Iowa. So that's the end of my budget report, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, President Wilson. Thank you for the report, and thank you for your comments that you made earlier. Very appreciated. Are there any questions or comments for President Wilson? Hearing none, a motion and a second are required to approve the budgets as outlined in the agenda item. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Regent Jaden. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Nancy Dunkel.
Thank you. Second by Regent Dunkel. Is there any further discussion?
Regent Hensley.
Regent Hensley?
Thank you. And thank you to all the presidents for the presentation. I appreciate that. A lot of information in there, great information. I just want to share with everyone why I'm going to vote the way I am and just have some discussion. Being new, and this is the first time having experienced the budget process, I'll tell you, I was really disappointed in how the process was handled. And I say that based upon the experience that I've had working at the municipal level. 24 years on the Des Moines City Council. I went through a number of very, very large budgets, and we spent a great deal of time. I mean, we spent probably 3 months leading up to the point where we actually approved the budget. We had input from people, we had town hall meetings, we had department heads come in and give us presentations. And I first saw these budgets when the docket was first sent to us about 10 days ago. We're talking about an $8.4 billion budget. Yet I, as a regent, have not had any exposure to any of this. And I understand that we approve tuition and room and board rates and stuff, and those are pieces of the budget. But I have not had an opportunity, other than when I reached out to Brad Berg, and I've gotten some information from him. We really don't get into the financial piece. And you can look at the 3 presentations that we just had. There's great information in there, but you don't get into the overall financials. And when I looked at what is the mission and purpose for this Board of Regents, it is oversight to the financial operations of the universities. How can I sit here and say I really have done my job? Because I haven't. I really don't know how any regent can sit here and say that, because you have not had the opportunity to really sit down with the CFOs and whoever else is appropriate to have some good in-depth discussions. Now, I don't think that we need to I don't want to get into the line by line, into the weeds. That's not the intent. But I would like to know, what were the assumptions behind some of these? How did we go about making this? And the other thing that just was unbelievable to me was the fact that I had the 25 budget and I had the proposed 26 budget. I had no actuals on any of the numbers that were presented to the regions. That is not acceptable. How can we make and look forward to budgets when we don't have actual numbers to know, did we overspend? Do we have deficits? Where are we at? So that is why I'm voting no. And I would like to suggest that it's a new time and we need to look at how we go through the budget process. And I think we still have some opportunities here. We don't have a budget or finance committee. I believe a budget or finance committee that's made up of a couple of regents, you know, the CFOs, the appropriate people from the universities, if they could spend time really going through this and come to the board and say, yes, we are supportive and recommending, I think that, to me, that would give me a level of confidence that, okay, I think that we've done our job. And I think we still have the opportunity to do that. I know I talked with Mark earlier today about, is there a reason that we have to approve the budget right now? Could we wait and do it in August, have a special meeting? And I don't know what the answer to that is yet, but I think it would be really worthwhile. If you look at the state budget, 2% increase. You look at what we're being asked to approve today is in that 4 to 6%. And I know there's some reasons for some of that, but it is high. And I think that we owe it to our public and to the constituents and to everybody that's involved that we take a little bit more time really looking at it. And, you know, I think a committee of a budget committee, a finance committee, if there's not the opportunity to do it this year, it really needs to be part of the process in the future. And I would just add one more comment related to President Wilson. President Wilson, I really appreciate your comments. I know it's going to be a difficult time because of all of this, but I also feel very strongly that the way this is handled will really dictate a lot in the future for the University of Iowa. So I hope we are as aggressive as we can possibly be in dealing with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Hensley. I certainly understand everything that you're saying, but what I would like to just mention, and as you said, as a new regent, you may not be fully aware, our investment in finance committee that is chaired by David Barker and vice chaired by Regent Dunkel is by mandate, budget management is part of their task that they are to do. So we do have that already in place, and maybe we need to look at that further, but I did want to mention that.
President Bates, I want to respond to that, please.
Sure. Yes.
I'm on that committee. We have had no discussions regarding budgets. Zero discussions regarding budgets.
Okay.
We talk about the investments, and that's done on a quarterly basis, but we have had zero discussion about budgets.
Okay. Well, I think the committee needs to look at that then. I appreciate your comments. Is there any other comments from any of the other regions about the budgets or anything you would like to discuss?
Yes, President Bates.
I think Regent Dunkel had a comment, but Regent Barker, whoever.
Go ahead, David.
Nancy, go ahead.
Well, I just want to comment that I have had opportunities all along the way as I've been on this board for several years, and I have felt free at every step of the way to call Terry Johnson at the University of Iowa or Michael Hager or whoever I see. If I had a question, I always felt free to call them, and I must say they were always very helpful. So one-on-one, I did my own homework along the way, and you know, perhaps you'll have that opportunity too to have some time to do that.
Thank you. Regent Barker?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Regent Hensley. I appreciate your experience and insight into the budget process. And I agree, Regent Dunkel. You know, I've also asked questions along the way, worked with Brad Berg and the CFOs and talked about this. But I agree with Regent Hensley that our process can be improved, that we can have more of a formal and predictable process of having board involvement in the budget. And even if our past process was acceptable, even if that process was acceptable in the past, I think business as usual is no longer acceptable because of our changing relationship with state and federal governments. My quibble, again, is not with the numbers themselves. I have a lot of confidence in Brad Berg and our CFOs. And this, as Regent Hensley said, this is a budget for fiscal year 26. We're looking at the next 11 months. This is our best guess as to the numbers that we're going to see. So my concern is not with the expectations, it's with the variance. In other words, with the risk. As I've said in past meetings, higher education finance is changing quickly and dramatically. The president is finally taking a much needed hard look at federal spending. And the Iowa legislature is focusing on higher education more than it has in 50 years, and that will require changes in how we approach our budget. I do not believe that the budget that's been presented to us adequately accounts for the risks of changes in federal and state funding. There are some parts of the budget that do account for risk. There's an excellent discussion of risk in the narrative on Iowa State athletics, where we are told that the budget is being plugged with a one-time transfer from the foundation, but it's the end of the line. There won't be more of this money in 2027 and beyond. The narrative is also frank about potential expenses resulting from the House settlement. I also appreciate that capital projects will be canceled and that pricing will be adjusted because of these risks. We need more frank discussion like this in the budget. The introduction to the University of Iowa budget has a brief mention of ongoing uncertainties related to changes in federal funding, but there's very little analysis of federal funding risk, something I've brought up in the past several meetings. For example, indirect cost recoveries are a major source of uncertainty. Because some universities have abused indirect cost recovery, all universities are facing increased scrutiny and possible reductions in these payments. The University of Iowa estimates a reduction of $3.8 million, but only a lower court injunction prevents NIH and DOD indirect cost recovery rates from going from 55% to 15%, and other agencies might do the same. Our budget narrative and projections should reflect this risk and should explain contingencies for what we'll do if things are different than we expect. UIHC also faces risk from a reduction in directed payments. This is regularly pointed out in our briefings at Regent meetings, but it's not in the budget. Reduction of directed payments could move UIHC net income from net positive to net negative, and we are counting on positive net revenues to finance the new tower. Again, a review of Medicaid is much needed. The federal budget situation requires it, but we have to take account of how things might change. The last report we received shows a Moody's median for hospital cash reserves to be 262 days. Projections we have received show the burden of financing the tower will drive that to around 200 days in 5 years. That might be acceptable if we're confident that our net revenue will hold up, but not if there is a risk of a large decrease in net income. There are a few references to cost control in the budget, notably in ISU athletics, but we need more. Given the risks, we should launch a major effort to identify cost savings and develop contingency plans for a future with less revenue. In our April meeting, President Bates said, "I am asking the universities to redouble their efficiency efforts so that we can find additional savings." I see little evidence in the budget of these efforts. So I'll be voting no on the budget, again, not because of concern for the numbers themselves, but I think we can get a better budget document that addresses these concerns and these risks. Our role as regents is oversight, not cheerleading. Oversight requires real debate where differences of opinion are aired and respected. 3 months ago, because of the same concerns I outlined here, I voted no on the IMU renovation project. 3 days later, President Bates removed me from the executive committee. I was also removed from the Property and Facilities Committee and kept off of the Center for Intellectual Freedom Council, even though there was space for an additional regent. Now, I have great confidence in Regents Hensley, Jaden, and Kramer to do a great job on that center, but I would have appreciated the opportunity to help launch that center. I hope that actions like this will not intimidate regents from exercising independent judgment, and I hope that we will value debate and public deliberation over the appearance of consensus. I should add that none of my criticism is directed to board staff. Mark Braun, Amy Clays, Rachel Boone, Brad Berg, Kristen Bauer-Davis, and others do a great job of carrying out board policy. Now, while I have the floor, I just want to say one more thing, and that's that I have been nominated for a position in the Trump administration. If I'm confirmed, and if I'm required by the Office of Government Ethics, this might be my last Regent meeting. Now, I might not be confirmed for a while, so you might see me again in August, might even see me in September, who knows. But I just wanted to say how much I love and appreciate the University of Iowa, Iowa State, and University of Northern Iowa. Look, I taught and studied at the University of Iowa. My grandmother went to Iowa State University. My dad graduated from UNI. There's so many wonderful things that happen at these institutions, and there's a lot of good that they do for Iowa. But I think that this board has a very important role to play in the oversight of those institutions, and I have enjoyed and appreciated every minute of my time on the board. Thank you.
Are there any other, I'd like to hear any of the other regents, excuse me, have any thoughts regarding the budget, the motion that we have on the floor?
President Bates, I just have one question for Mark Braun. Do we have an answer? Does the budget have to be approved today?
You want to take it, Brad, or you want me to?
The budget does not have to be approved today, but ideally with the fiscal year began July 1st, the farther we get away from that, I mean, to answer your question, no, it does not have to be approved today.
And I understand, the fiscal year, the timing and all that. I guess my question would be, we're working to schedule a special meeting in August.
Yes.
Would it not be possible to have a little more discussion, have some presentations? I understand that people have reached out and done one-on-one meetings, but I think that's not the best use. Maybe what we could set up Zoom meetings with the CFOs and the appropriate people, have those set up, one with each university, so that we could then take action in August.
We could certainly do that. I mean, we could certainly hold those meetings with or without approving the budget today. If budgets were considered for approval and approved, if something came up where we needed to amend the budget, we could come back and amend the budgets as well.
I'd like to be able to vote yes for the budgets, but today I can't vote.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Amy, correct me if I get this wrong. So right now we have a motion and a second to vote on the budgets. In order to postpone that, you would have to amend the motion to delay the vote until.
It might be simpler, actually. I can't recall who actually made the motion, but if there were no objections and the board by general consent agreed, the individual who made the motion could withdraw it if there was no objections from any members of the board, and then we could entertain a new motion to table until August.
I believe the motion was made by Regent Jaden and seconded by Regent Dunkel.
That might be a little cleaner.
Would you be willing to withdraw your motion and restate it?
Let's hear from the other regents.
Yeah, I'd like to hear, Chris, I'd like to hear from the other regents if they're comfortable. We've heard that we could go ahead and pass it, do the Zooms, the more information like you said, and then we could amend it. So I just want to hear, I want the board to make the decision.
But we also heard that we don't have to pass it. I just want to make sure.
Right. We do not.
This is Regent Kramer. I do have similar concerns and actually did think that a committee was doing a little deeper dive, than what we were seeing. So I definitely would like to change the process. I'm a little bit on the fence of, I could go along with approving it with the idea that if this committee came back with recommendations, we could amend it. I could go either way on that, but I definitely would like to see a deeper dive by a committee into it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Jerry, I can go either way as well. I think if we vote, I think David's comments about risks and sensitivity are absolutely critical, and that should be addressed it could be at a future meeting. And I agree with Regent Hensley about a need for a process change going forward and doing that. But I can go either way on this, because I don't think the numbers are going to change when we get to the end of this for this year.
Okay. Thank you, Regent Jaden.
I would say I agree with the idea of maybe passing it now, at least so the universities have that first framework for a budget. I think it's better to have a budget now that we're in the fiscal year, and then come back and amend it in our special meeting in August. But I do understand some of David's concerns. But it is important. Like, as a college student, I understand why these colleges need these funds, but also how we need to identify efficiencies and whatnot.
Thank you, Regent Gibble.
Jerry.
Yes.
I'm comfortable, since we can amend it later. I'm comfortable voting on it today, knowing that we could amend it later.
Okay. Thank you, Regent Rouse.
President Bates, question, please.
Yes.
I'd just like to have Brad talk about the amendment process, because in our conversation, if I recall correctly, I thought it wasn't as easy to amend as what I thought it should be. So could you talk about how budgets are amended and what the process is?
Yeah, the amended budgets would come back to the board, in a format desired by the board, and show a comparison between the original budget and the amendment with an explanation of any of the line items that have changed. So it's as straightforward as bringing another docket item back to the board, with an action item to vote on the amended budget.
So with the intent, is the understanding then, as I'm listening to the other regions, that there would be follow-up discussion? I guess I'm hearing that that's what.
Yeah, I think so.
I hadn't approving the budget today, but understanding that there would be follow-up discussions with the appropriate people via Zoom, or is that what I'm hearing? Kurt?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Is there any other further discussion from anyone?
Sherry, excuse
Yes.
me. Right, Sherry,
Yes.
this is JP. Just have a question. So how, a couple questions. Brad, if a budget's not approved today, the longer you go on, what happens if you don't approve it today? What are the risks, downsides to that? As soon as you approve it, it's, inaccurate the next day, right? That's the joke about budgets. So what happens if we don't approve it today? What are the risks that we incur? I just think we need to understand.
Yeah.
If we don't approve it today, and then how much time do other regions feel they need that's adequate for this, and how far do you want to dive into the weeds?
In response to the risks question, I mean, the risks are not great. It's just the optics of not approving a budget. The farther you go into a fiscal year, are not ideal. When we do have to, as a part of the appropriations requests, which are due on October 1st, we do have to submit to the legislature the board approved budget. So that's the timeline that, in my mind anyway, that needs to happen. But ideally, I mean, to be a quarter into the fiscal year and not have an approved budget is a concern. I mean, it is a planning document after all. So, and regarding the timing of some of this too, major budget components are the state appropriations, and we know the legislature can run long. And our fiscal year begins July 1, And in recent years, and I know this is being accelerated starting next year, but tuition has not been considered until June. With knowing the finalization of those items with a month before the start of the fiscal year, and then to compile budgets, do the due diligence, there are time constraints involved as well, but I do think that will ease next year with tuition being considered on April 30th. And will allow, greater discussion with, maybe the investment finance committee, with the CFOs and so forth as well before bringing budgets to the full board for consideration.
Okay. Thanks for answering that question. For the Regents that would like to see additional information, how much time would you like to have considering the time frame that we're looking at? And I would also ask too, and I also make this comment, I do think the finance teams at each one of the respective universities have spent considerable amounts of time aside from this meeting, having been involved in budgets and other things in my career. They can take months. Sometimes you start the next year right after you finish the first one in some cases. So I have no doubt that there's been a considerable amount of effort already being placed forward. So some of these questions might be able to be asked today even. If there's significant concern that we should not pass the budgets today. But that being said, some of the comments Regent Barker made, have those been taken into account from some of the CFOs here? Some of those things we say we haven't seen in the budget when we're just looking at numbers. Have some of those things in contingencies been taken into account for without the risk of it getting long-winded here? I guess I'd like to hear from some of the CFOs at the Regent at the universities on their opinion on how this was put together.
This is Terry Johnson, University of Iowa. So at any given time, we're working on 3 budget years. Last year, current year, and future year. And it's pretty much regular cycle, day in, day out throughout the year. But we're thinking about the one we just completed, the current year we're now in, fiscal 26 in this case, and we're also setting the stage for fiscal 27. In addition to that, we actually do multi-year projections at least at our university. I don't know about Iowa State and UNI, so we're thinking even multi-year out as far as what the potential effects could be to our budget. We're trying to think about the headwinds that Regent Barker has talked about in the past, and just a moment ago said some of the things, definitely with the federal budget, state budgets, et cetera. We're always thinking about these things, especially as we move forward in time. So, we're more than happy to get together with all of the regents, a few of the regents, whatever that turned out to be, to talk about specifics. But it is not a one and done. We're constantly thinking about our revenue streams. We're constantly thinking about our expense management issues at each institution. And that is it's actually a way of life, so, and we're definitely open to other ideas that any one regent or others outside the institution might have with respect to, becoming more efficient and effective at utilizing the resources we are blessed with. So, it's a constant battle almost as far as trying to stay on top of what could happen, contingencies, et cetera. So with that, I'll just stop, but we're more than happy to engage.
And I'd just add that nothing that I've said should indicate in any way any lack of confidence in Terry or the other CFOs. Over the years, I've worked with them, sometimes in great detail, sometimes big picture on these budget issues. It's really been over the last 6 months, over the last year, that it has been dawning on me that we face risks very unlike any risks that we did in the first, say, 5 years that I was on the Regents. And my no vote is again not any lack of confidence in in those people or the work they've done. Just a statement that I would like to make that I think we need to do more on contingency planning and accounting for risk.
So I could go either way too on this, Sherry, just to put my thoughts out there. I think there is some value in having a budget approved, being able to make certain decisions that need to be made now or in the next several weeks or month that maybe aren't imperative in terms of the things that maybe some of the regions would like to see. But I can also understand too, as a governing board, being able to give this the diligence that we feel that it needs. So I could be fine approving it along with having more time to look at it and amending it if necessary. I think the comments are clear. We're confident in the numbers, but would like to be able to be confident in how we feel about it as a board as well.
Thank you, JC.
President Bates, I have one more comment.
Sure. No, go ahead. I think Regent Dunkel also had a comment, but go ahead, Regent Hensley.
As I indicated earlier today, I had the opportunity to be with the governor yesterday, and it was really about the Center for Intellectual Freedom. But at the end of the meeting, she did pull me aside and wanted to share with me her thoughts on the budgets that we were going to be approving today. And she was quite concerned about the budgets being approved and the percentage of increase, and wanted me to know that she was not happy about it and was concerned that we were looking at budgets that had a higher percentage increase after the state had approved a budget with a 2% increase. So her comment to me was, Chris, the press will be reaching out to me after the Regents take action, and my answer will be no, I'm not supportive.
Thank you. Did anyone else have any comments? Regent Dunkel?
One more thing I wanted to add was back during COVID, we had an advisory group that looked at efficiencies and what our expenses were, what the income was. And I was on that advisory board, and David, you were too, and maybe Jim Lindenmeyer, I can't remember who else, but we did a real deep dive in trying to create efficiencies or trying to look at what the schools were doing that would put us in a comfort zone that we could manage. So that's probably an advantage that I, for one, had in seeing the efficiencies and getting to know the whole process that perhaps some of the other regions aren't familiar with.
I agree. I think that was a worthwhile effort. I think Nancy Butker was also on that group. I think it was one of the first times that we had done Zoom meetings, was trying to put that together during COVID. And I think it did have an important impact. I think, though, that's a little different than some of the contingency planning that maybe we should do for a big event. What happens if we lose a gigantic amount of revenue? What will be the first steps that we take?
Very similar to what we had, though, David. I mean, that was what our advisory group, what are we going to do if this goes on for, a long period of time? Or how do we get classrooms, more kids in smaller groups? And I mean, it was a huge headwind, and I feel like this is the same thing.
Well, it's a great template to look at.
Very good.
In response to the budget growth, I'd like to make one additional comment. And I mean, at the end of the day, the budget growth is coming from the fact that we're going to be educating more students. The hospital has certainly expanded their footprint in the state of Iowa. to provide patient services to more Iowans. And I don't view budget growth as a bad thing. I can look back to 2020, and our budget growth was significantly less than inflation. In fact, the average of inflation from 2020 to 2025 was 4%, and our average budget growth, and I'm speaking solely to general university budgets now, from 20 and including 2026 is 2%. So we're significantly less than inflation, and it certainly impacted our budgets. And I'm kind of concerned that there's people are viewing our budget growth as a negative and not a positive. And this is just my opinion, being forthright.
Thank you, Brad. Very, very good points right there. Is there anything else? So I think what I hear is let's take it to a vote, and we can have the Investment and Finance Committee do a deeper dive. Like, I think there are concerns. I certainly understand what David and Chris are both saying, and Robert, I have those concerns also. But I see that we need to take a vote so that we can see if we can pass this budget so that we can go from here and the universities can start their budget year. Is there any further discussion?
What exactly is the motion that we're on?
We have a motion and a second on the floor, I believe. Is that right?
Motion is to approve the budgets for all three universities, right?
And so you're not willing to amend the motion?
I think the recommendation from the chair is to continue, and I will follow her direction on that. I do want to say, Sherry, I want to go back to Brad's comment though. Messaging on this is really important.
I agree.
And so I think because I put my old corporate hat on, there's price and there's units here, right? We got state appropriations that are flat. We got a small tuition increase, and the rest of it is to your point, it's good things. It's enrollment and it's hospitals. So if the press or someone is going to choose to look at it in the aggregate and not have the willingness to go deeper and say, hey, it's 5.7% and you don't understand the components, part of that's on us to do a better job of helping to explain that. So messaging on this and clarity really is critical for us in helping people understand. To your point, Brad, this is a good thing from a top line perspective. I respect and totally understand David's points about risk in this, but this budget is a positive, and it should be for our legislators. It should be for the state of Iowa and for our universities, in my view.
And I don't disagree. And again, I'm not arguing with the numbers themselves, only with the consideration of risk and contingency.
So Sherry, I think my motion stands and I'm ready for a vote. If you are.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a vote. Regent Dunkel?
Yes.
Regent Barker?
No.
Regent Hensley?
No.
Regent Rouse?
Yes.
Regent Reiswick?
Yes.
Regent Gipple?
Yes.
Regent Jaden?
Yes.
Regent Kramer?
Yes.
The motion, Regent Bates votes yes, and the motion is approved. There being no further business before this?
I'd like to make a motion that the budget committee be you'll try to convene in the next month and look at this process a little deeper and come back with any recommendations for both, whether they have recommendations for change to this budget or just a recommendation to the change in the process of approving future budgets.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Regent Kramer and a second by Regent Weiswick to look at this closer and to bring it back. Is there any discussion? Let me pause for just a moment. I lost my script on my. Well, I can go ahead and do it. We'll go ahead and take a vote. Regent Ryswick,
Yes.
Regent Kramer,
Yes.
Regent Gipple,
Yes.
Regent Hensley,
Yes.
Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Rouse,
Yes.
Regent Bates votes yes.
Jaden.
Jaden.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, Sherry.
Regent Jaden, you vote yes. I was trying to look at the screen and get everyone. Okay. Thank you all. It's been a robust discussion, and I think it's been a good one. At that note, the Board of Regents meeting, July 30th, 2025 is adjourned. Thank you all.
Mhm.